So you want to talk to new people, but you don't know where to start. You like the idea of becoming more social and more comfortable in social situations, but every time you find yourself trying to reach out to new people, you either feel anxious or stuck or you don't know what to say. And as a lifelong introvert who is able to push myself out of my comfort zone and gradually get better and better at talking to new people, I want to discuss the steps I took to make myself better at socializing and more comfortable in these situations that previously would have made me very stressed. And the idea for this video specifically came about when I looked at the comments from some of my subscribers. People who told me that when they try to reach out in new social situations, they either find that they're having trouble talking, they can't figure out what to talk about, or maybe their anxiety gets the better of them and they find that their mind is going completely blank. And with these people and our goal of becoming more social in mind, I'm going to start with step one, and that is realizing that a win is not having a great conversation. A win is just initiating a conversation in the first place. A lot of people, when they're trying to become more social, when they're trying to get better at reaching out to new people, they think that if they don't have a fantastic conversation with these new people, then they're just failing and they're not learning at all. So for example, you might think to yourself, wow, I really want to talk to that dude over there. He seems cool, but you know what? I'm really scared I'm going to stutter. Or I'm really scared I'm going to go over there and say something silly. But what I want to tell you is that if you want to become better at socializing, the most important piece of advice I could ever impart on you is that getting better is not doing well over and over and over again. To get better at socializing, you have to come to terms with the fact that you need to do it badly first. And this is a hard pill for a lot of people to swallow. I'm telling you that before you have amazing social interactions, before you become super charismatic and extroverted, you need to have the courage to go out and fail over and over and over again. You need to have the courage to go up to a new person, stumble over your words. You need to have the courage to go up to a new person and say some complete nonsense and maybe even get some weird looks. It's not about going out there and being perfect on the first try. It's about going out and being comfortable with doing it bad repeatedly. And this applies for really any social interaction. If you want to get better at talking to new people, first, get better at talking badly. If you want to get better at asking people out, first, get better at asking people out badly. There's no world where you're going to jump from having trouble with your words, being super anxious and struggling, to immediately becoming fantastic at new conversations, knowing exactly what to say, and being completely mindful. There's the intermediate period that we have to struggle through. In the same way as when you're trying to grow out a long haircut and you have the sort of awkward growing out phase, it's the exact same when it comes to social interactions. You need to tank that period of sort of awkward, sort of mid conversations and interactions to get to the point where you are fantastic at talking to new people. And I would hope that this is at least a little bit reassuring for some of the people who said they were scared to start new conversations because either they couldn't think of what to say, they were too anxious, or maybe they were speaking in their second language and they were having trouble actually articulating what they were trying to say. If you understand that you're allowed to have some bad conversations on your way to becoming a better conversationalist, it takes a lot of the pressure off and you can be less in your head thinking about if a conversation is quote unquote successful or not, and just put more effort into actually trying your best and not being judgmental. And with this in mind, the second thing that you have to understand is that when it comes to starting new conversations, when it comes to becoming better socially, we want to think of the practice that we're going to do as very gradual, as opposed to just jumping right into the deep end. If you want to become better at socializing in the same way as when you start out in the gym, you're not going to go right in, load up 400 pounds on a bench press and get crushed. If you want to become better at socializing, what we have to do is work upwards in baby steps, starting at the easiest possible social interactions. So say walking down the street, seeing a stranger and just going, good morning, or hello, and gradually moving up from there. And we can move up in two ways. We can move up in first, the amount of people that we're talking to, and second, how in-depth those conversations are. So let's say the easiest possible interaction you could have. You set for yourself a goal of, say you want to talk to one new person every day, and you're going to challenge yourself to have a conversation consisting of one sentence, and that's it. So say you're walking down the street, like I said before, you see someone, you say, hello, or maybe, oh, cool shirt, and that's literally it. Fantastic, you've made progress. And once that becomes too easy for you, you're either increasing the amount of people you're talking to on a daily basis or increasing how in-depth the conversations are going. So you might say, oh, you know what, I'm gonna have a one sentence at least conversation with two people now. Or you could say, I'm gonna try to talk to one new person every day, but I'm gonna challenge myself to have a conversation of at the very least 2 sentences. So we're tracking our progress and we're either moving up in how many people or how in-depth the conversations are. And I think this is a good way to do it because we can still get out of our comfort zone, but again, we're not jumping right into the deep end. We're not throwing ourselves into situations that are too much for us. We're starting with what's manageable for us and gradually moving up at our own pace. And that's the thing about it. These are skills that we want you cultivating for the rest of your life. The effects of getting better at socializing will stay with you forever. And as a result, we don't need to rush right to the finish line. We don't need to think to ourselves, I need to become better at socializing tomorrow or I failed. We're allowed to give ourselves time. We're allowed to give ourselves some leeway to gradually get better at this process and be patient with ourselves. So just to recap, if you want to become better at socializing, the two things that you have to do are first, understand that to actually get better at socializing, to get better at talking to new people, you have to be willing to do not that great for a little bit. And that's okay. Literally everybody goes through the same journey of bad conversations, being a little awkward, not knowing what to say, slipping up on their words, and gradually, slowly but surely getting better. You don't have to be an expert the first time you do it because no one is. And second, setting little goals for ourselves and gradually moving up in baby steps over time. Gradually increasing the amount of new people we're talking to on a daily basis and how in-depth we want those conversations to be. But also just being patient with ourselves, not beating ourselves up if we miss a day or two, not telling ourselves that we're being a failure if we're not consistent every single day, but more so just setting that challenge and even having a little bit of fun with it, saying, you know what, I'm gonna try this, I'm gonna try my very best, push myself out of my comfort zone and just see how it goes. And with this in mind, I truly think that you can get out of your shell more and just become more comfortable in social interactions and just a better talker in general. Now, I really hope you can find this advice useful. If you like videos like this, I really recommend you subscribe. There's gonna be a whole lot more soon, but until then, I'll see you guys.